I am fairly sure that many people were anticipating this movie ever since it was announced. Whew. What can I say? Five Nights at Freddy's. I gotta be honest, I never played any of the games, but I did see a lot of people playing the game, so I am fairly knowledgeable about the game story, the game's lore, the people that play it, and I'm also fairly knowledgeable about the impact that it gave for the indie video game industry. Actually, the game was so big that, well, merchandise everywhere. People made fan games about it, or even parodies of the game. I mean, that's me saying, considering that what was it? 2 years ago, I saw Willy's Wonderland, which was a parody with Nicolas Cage, and I ended up liking that movie a lot, mostly because I it was kind of like an affectionate spoof to the popularity of Five Nights at Freddy's. You could tell what it was, and of course we got one of the most badass roles that Nicolas Cage has ever been. But man, to have a movie of the real deal, Five Nights at Freddy's, it took its sweet time until they finally announced it and finally came out. Although I wasn't exactly very hyped on this one. I was mostly kind of having some half and half expectation to it. I didn't want it to overhype it because, man, that the fandom of that game is insane. They're hardcore fans that they can even chant the hidden lore of inside the game and come up with those conspiracy videos about what the story is and all these things. I'm not that kind of guy. What else I can say? I do remember that some people were mostly hyping this one because it's been announced that the animatronics was gonna be done by the Jim Henson puppetry thing. But honestly, when you make puppetry from a really beloved and famous workshop, is not exactly gonna guarantee a good movie. It just, I mean, yeah, it kind of brings out a faith that you're gonna see something good, but still, there is one thing that is called overhyping. And this is something that I always try to do during my vlogs. That I try to give out kind of like a fair review, and even if I come up really loving a movie, I tend to not go to the extreme and saying that yeah, this is the greatest movie ever or something like that, because honestly, it's gonna sound a little bit too much, and sometimes it comes up a little bit too dishonest. Even when this is why sometimes I prefer even watching reviews when it's about people even giving out negative thoughts or being angry about it, because honestly, I have been repeating that word every time. I try my best to not repeat it. Because, well, what I was gonna say is that when people just give out kind of like intense love and becomes overly positive on a movie, it sounds disingenuous. It sounds like uh, they're just overhyping the movie and giving out so much praise, and it feels manufactured. If you have kind of like both sides, then I can feel like there is some sense of sincerity into your taste, and it can show that you can see both sides of the spectrum. I kind of wish I could say a little bit much about Five Nights at Freddy's in a positive light, because now that I have seen this movie, trying to be a little bit open-minded about it, and at the end of the day, Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie sucks! Did I jump scare you? Mostly because Five Nights at Freddy's the game is very infamous on its jump scares. Granted, that was the point of the game. The point of the game is trying to do your job on 5 days as a security worker, trying to not have those Chuck E. Cheese animatronics ripoffs trying to kill you. And if they catch you, they'll give out a jump scare. Which is basically what the game is. But the movie, I didn't like it. No. This is probably one of the worst movies I've seen this year. And this is me coming from that this year I saw Strays. I hated Strays. That movie, it was the second most mean-spirited movies I have seen. But it's not as mean-spirited as Strays. It's not as mean-spirited as Robot Chicken. But man, some of the mean-spirited streaks that this movie has, I didn't like it. It was a movie that the characters failed to give me some empathy, and that is the biggest killer that this movie has. And it's a shame because it had the elements. It had the elements to be a decent movie, or at least good. But unfortunately, it feels so dependent on the fan base, the Easter eggs, and it tries so hard to make the lore to please the fans that it falls flat even for people who is not exactly into the lore. It just needed to be that simple, but it didn't. And the movie was so bad that I could see fanboys in the movie theater blindly clapping on to the movie. And I know that they applaud to the movie mostly because they are freaking fanboys. Seriously, there is so much of a fanboys that they applauded in the middle of the movie once an important name came out, and they were like, "Whoa! Oh, give me a break." And they even applauded when there is a cameo of I think it is a YouTuber that I don't even know who it is, and they were like, "Yeah!" and I was like, "Really? For this guy? Who's this guy?" Okay. I know that I'm sounding like a party pooper, let's have the fanboys have their fun. Let's have their fun. But let it be known that fanboys are always gonna be fanboys. They're gonna defend garbage to the end of the world, and they will almost never admit that something is wrong. Like, it's almost like Angry Joe. He might have his problem, but I still respect his opinions. But the only thing that I don't respect too much about Angry Joe is how blindly defends Superman, and he doesn't admit that Man of Steel was shit. But that's just me. That's just me. But again, let's have the fanboys have their fun. And you think that my opinion doesn't matter about Five Nights at Freddy's the movie? You can, you don't have to listen to me, because I'm not a professional. I admit that I am not a professional. I am just a guy who likes movies and likes to express my taste behind the camera. It's just a hobby that I do. So, and I'm still ranting about this situation when I'm supposed to be talking about the movie. So here you go. Now it's time for me to talk about why I really dislike this movie. Really dislike this movie. So, what do we got at the story? It's about this guy named Mike, played by Josh Hutcherson. He's basically this washed-up dude who can't hold on a job because he has some anger issues. I mean, the last job as a security guard, he beat up a guy because he thought he was kidnapping a kid instead of going to him and saying, hey, are you his father or something like that? No, he didn't do that. So he gets fired, and then Matthew Lillard gives him a job, saying that, hey, there is the there's this abandoned place, kind of like Chuck E. Cheese, and I want you to be a security guard out of it. So he goes there, even though because he just needed a job because he needed, to be supportive to his little sister. I'll get to that. He wants to be supportive to his little sister because he doesn't want the little sister to be under custody of a Karen of a woman, a total Karen. And little that he knows is that, just like in the games, the animatronics in that abandoned pizza parlor, they are alive. And they have murderous intentions. To start off, let me refresh you a little bit of the game about the basic of what is the game about. The basic premise about the game is that you're a security guard and you're watching the cameras on this abandoned pizza parlor, like Chuck E. Cheese's. And it is a night shift. And you're just watching the cameras and seeing if something is wrong here and there. And yeah, something is wrong. The animatronics are moving and they're gonna get you. And the premise of the game is that you have to watch the cameras, and if the animatronics are near where you are, you have to close the door or do anything to prevent them to entering. Because if you fail, they're gonna get you and you're gonna get killed by a jump scare. although that's basically the premise of the first few games, I know that they begin to expand the games a little bit more to make it more story-wise. And that's something simple that, to the movie's credit, they did that. But they add kind of like a lot of layers that they wanted to do. They even add some Easter eggs that is part of the other games. Most notably, three or four times the movie tries a jump scare with the balloon boy, which is a character that appears on on the second game. So anyway, let me talk about the characters, because these characters is some of the most insufferable people I have seen in a long while on movies. This is where the tension of the movie really kills me, because guess what? Everybody in this movie is an asshole. No one is likable. Our protagonists suck. The Karens suck. Matthew Lillard sucks. The policewoman sucks. Even the children sucks. Let's start out with our protagonist, played by Josh Hutcherson. He's this guy who he almost makes no effort to be nice to her little sister, and I'll get to that. And it's mostly because the guy, for the most part, he tries to sleep it off, and it's because we get this flashback that apparently in his life he lost a little brother who apparently got kidnapped, and he says that I want to find the guy who kidnapped my brother, and the only way to try and find my brother is in my dreams. So he takes medication so to sleep it off, because he thinks that in his dreams he's gonna find his little brother that disappeared, and try to find out who are the culprit that kidnapped it. And these dream sequences are so unintentionally funny that in my head it almost mirrors the live action segment of that South Park episode where the teacher have memories of his wife, but his wife is in live action, and you know the episode where that woman is like, come on Richard, and then at the end she gets involved in an airplane crash and goes, ah, Richard! It's almost similar to that, but maybe in my head I wanted something desperate to be to laugh at it, because my God, this guy really sucked, and it's kind of like he was technically kind of like a big loser, and very blind to the things that are going on ahead. And you know what? I wouldn't mind a flawed character, but you know what? What boils this movie boils me a lot? When the movie tries to make us sympathize with an even more unlikable character, and that I bring with Piper Rubio playing the little girl, which she plays the little sister that is on custody. I mean, they have to say that it's little sister because anyone might say that they kind of look like father and daughter, which could be a cliche, and even the movie points that out. But this little girl, she was the bane of this movie. the movie really want us to sympathize with this little girl, but it makes no effort to do that. Because even from start to finish, this little girl was an insufferable brat. I really despise that girl. The movie think that we have to sympathize with this character just because she's a little girl. It's almost like saying that we have to sympathize every time with Eric Cartman just because he's a little boy. It doesn't work that way. Children can be nasty. And this girl, she was insufferable. I mean, at the start of the movie, she was so irrespectful to her little brother, calling him an idiot, then trying to force him to get him to work, saying that by taking his jacket, and she's like, "No, I don't want to." And she's drawing pictures. She's kind of saying that, the typical, "I got my imaginary friend." And the movie, again, it tries so hard to make us like that character. And when things start happening, she has all this devilish smile that is downright manipulatively cute. And at the moment of the movie, I had no empathy for this little girl. That when things are gonna start, you don't even care. I'll get to that in a moment, but my God, that little girl sucked. Other character, there is this policewoman that shows up. She's played by Elizabeth Lale. It's a policewoman named Vanessa, and apparently she kind of has some exposition, and she was close to be the only likable character in the movie, but they ruined her by making her kind of like the one that throws out expositions to the whole thing, and it feels kind of obvious that she's hiding something, but it makes a poor attempt to dodge the bullet, and it's gonna feel kind of like very obvious that something is wrong. There is Mary Stuart Matterson, who plays the aunt of our protagonist, and she's a total cartoon Karen. A total cartoon Karen. She in two scenes she's basically with her lawyer, and the lawyer it was kind of like this warming, like, and apparently, to try to make us feel sympathy of that monster of a girl, they wanted to pull out a Tom and Jerry the movie by saying that the aunt doesn't care about the little girl. She just wants the money that comes with her. It's a lazy excuse, and I don't buy it, because still our protagonists live in middle class, kind of poverty. The guy can't even hold out of a job or something like that. I mean, he beat up an innocent guy that he thought that he was gonna kidnap a child, but whatever. But still, she's a total Karen that is so cartoonish. And there's also kind of like the babysitter, who later we learn that she's in cahoots with the aunt character. So I don't know. Oh yeah, let's talk also about the animatronics, which, if there is something positive that I could say about the movie is that the animatronic effects are really good. That's kind of like the only kind of thing that I can mention about this movie. The animatronics, the movement, the aesthetics of of how they look, they are really good. They look like the video game counterparts. They move how they're supposed to be. That's the only thing that I give it a positive to this movie. Either way, they are still doing well what the games are supposed to. They roam around the pizza parlor, and they kill off the intruders, because there's a scene that involves the intruders. But still, I don't know what went into the mind of the producers, in which in the middle of the movie they try so hard to make us feel sympathetic on these characters, and that is mostly because they just wanted they just begin to act kind of like friendly with the little girl, but it doesn't feel unearned. It doesn't feel earned. Again, it's because of the unlikability of that girl. I already talked a little bit about the cinematography because I did praise the animatronics, but some of the set designs are good. I gotta admit that. But as a horror movie, can you believe that this is a Blumhouse PG-13 movie, and we know how Blumhouse handle their PG-13 movies. They try so hard to be scary for a teenage audience, and the more they try, it feels cheesy, it feels restrictive, and on top of it all, really dependent on jump scares. This movie has at least kind of like 3 jump scares, most of them involving that balloon kid, the balloon kid cameo, and they're not exactly effective. And again, I am aware that Five Nights at Freddy's, the games, are their biggest selling point are the jump scares. But it is technically different in the execution. In the games, there's basically no music. I'm mostly talking about the early ones. I think from the first to the fourth, there's no music. And because you are kind of like in a limited room, and there are things that are gonna get you, that tension feels real. And when the jump scare comes, is all the time because you're catch off guard. It can get annoying with the time, but still the mood is what makes the jump scare effective. And not in this movie, because the jump scares always comes when there's kind of like a moment that that there is some music, and when the jump scare happens, orchestra string. Someone bangs the drums like boom. And guess what? It isn't because you're gonna get killed like in the games. No, it is because something cheap happened, and it was like, whoa. And also, here's something that annoys me also in the movie. Like I did mention before, the movie also has those moments that there's kind of like a dream sequence that is kind of basically is to showcase some character, the guy trying to find out the whereabouts of his brothers. But they wanted to insert the lore of the Five Nights at Freddy did, in which there are ghostly children. Some of the children, there are 5 children that they appear, and they interfere with our protagonist's dreams. And twice in this movie, the kids are just standing there, and then they start running like boo. And every time when they start running, and they're followed by an orchestra string of a drum, like they do that twice because they just wanted you to jump scare by an orchestra string, and they don't let kind of like the mood set in, and that even for PG-13 standards is cheap. That's cheap filmmaking. Oh yeah. What else can I talk about this movie that really annoyed me? Because I try my best to not to spoil, because I know there might be some fans watching this vlog, but honestly, the more I try to have people not watch this movie on movie theaters, good. I mean, it's better off at least to watch it rented and try not to support these kind of cheap filmmaking, especially for a well-known franchise. Did I mention that there was a YouTuber that makes a cameo? He only makes a cameo for a brief moment, and then on the mid-credit scene, where he is he's just playing a taxi driver. Oh yeah, that also makes me question something. Almost during the final moments of the movie, this is where it loses me, because there kind of becomes kind of like a plot point that the animatronics can't. For some reason, the animatronics don't go anywhere except in the pizza parlor. But somehow, one of them reaches the protagonist's house to get that little girl. And how it does it makes me question a lot. And then the dream sequences, they were only used to kind of build up some character that I don't know what happened, but when the name was mentioned, this is when the fanboys go, woo! Oh, shush. And I was like, what? And it comes out of nowhere without any build-up, that it doesn't help people who they're not into Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh yeah, now I remember something that kind of bothered me on this movie. Is that they wanted to build up these characters, these animatronics, as having some redeeming quality as likable. But it only starts out because that little girl just showed up, and they were like, wow, look at them. They're my friends. They're friendly. And they begin to act friendly and all that. But again, it kind of feels like unearned. And then the movie tries to switch up, saying, oh no, these are evil. Oh no, they're controlled by something. Make up your mind. Make up your mind, movie. You didn't earn it. Oh yeah, now I remember that I do wanted to talk about. because this movie is PG-13, a lot of the violence is off screen. A lot of the kills are off screen. Because of course they just wanted to make Five Nights at Freddy accessible to all ages, and so you're not gonna see gory deaths or something like that. But of course, still there is implications. Like the start of the movie starts out with some random security guard trying to get out, and of course we only see him being forcefully put an animatronics mask on. The situation looks like a Saw movie, but you don't see the results. The idea is there, but still the results are there. Also, what's the point of that security guard getting killed by the animatronics and trying to make us feel sympathy for the animatronics? Again, what's the point? But despite that PG-13 moment, I will admit that if there's one part that is close to being fun, and I don't care if I spoil it, is basically after the second night, because the Karen wants to give a bad reputation to her nephew in order to take custody of the little girl. She hired the babysitter, her boyfriend, and some other dudes to make property damage to the building at daytime. Isn't supposed that the animatronics are supposed to move at night according to the game? Whatever. But of course, predictably, this is when the moment starts to get, the guys destroy property damage and they get killed by the animatronics, and this whole situation, again, some blood splatters, off-screen deaths like usual. But there is one clever death. And the only clever death on this movie. And that involves the babysitter, who she sees this Freddy Fazzbear animatronic. And she stupidly just begins to look at the mouth. And then a hand out of nowhere grabs her and shoves her inside the Freddy Fazzbear mouth, and it bites her and cuts her in half. Of course, you don't see everything, but at least you see some gory aspect of it, and the bite is showcased with cast shadows. But for the credit of this movie, that was the only clever moment that this movie had. But the rest, nothing. Everyone is... I wasn't invested in this movie. Everyone is so unlikable. That even when the movie kind of wants to come up with the end, and it pulls out a plot twist out of their butts, I didn't even get it. Even when they showcased the big bad, and there was some kind of relationship with the Vanessa cop, it was kind of like out of nowhere. There wasn't even so much of a build-up. The only build of it was so weak because the woman she just talked in riddles and didn't want to answer anything when the guy was supposed to say, "No, I need answers." And of course there was the death, happily ever after, and they're gonna go with the sequel. Oh yeah, Not only you're gonna see. I talk mostly about the balloon kid, and I know there's Freddy, but you're gonna get all your favorites from the original Freddy. Find out the Freddy characters. I mean, you'll see Bonnie, you'll see Foxy, you'll see Chica, and yeah, that yellow version of the yellow bunny. I don't know what was the name of that one. I think it's Yellow Freddy. I don't care. But either, but then of course the movie ends and I can hear the fans cheering. No, seriously, they did. They did cheer. But I already mentioned how fanboys are able to defend even the biggest garbage without watching both sides. Trust me, I tried. I tried. I wanted to defend this movie. I wanted to defend the animatronics. But I can't. I can't when it's a movie that is filled with some of the most unlikable characters I have ever seen. The protagonist sucks. The little girl sucks. She sucks. She's the one that sucks the most. No, but you don't understand you don't understand children. You don't understand humanity. And when you're into making movies, you're supposed to root for the characters. And to make you root for the characters, you have to give the character some redeeming qualities. I mean, sometimes they can be, assholes or mean-spirited, but at least give them something to like about. Like, for example, if you kind of make the little girl, she may call, even though she called her brother an idiot and make some things, and she's kind of being a brat. Make her have some redeeming quality. Like, for example, making her saying that, hey brother, I didn't mean it, or something like that. I was feeling bad or something like that. But no, she's just basically one of those little girls that she just loves to draw. And how insulting it is to say that, well, sometimes when you draw, that means that, when you draw, that means that she must be hiding something. No! Here's a perfect example. Junior from Problem Child. That kid, it's easy to be unlikable, but the movie helps out making us feel sympathy for the kid, because the kid was put on a mean-spirited world, and most of the pranks and the things that he does, it was mostly out of self-defense and for people that deserve it. And when he makes the drawings, you understand. You can understand where it comes from. That little girl does not. The brother was doing his darnest to try to appease this girl. And suddenly, he's the bad brother because he's so fixated into trying to find the little brother that he lost. And he just wants to see it in his dreams, that any connection. Oh yeah, and yes, I counted. The movie does take place in 5 days, so just like the games, there's no overtime. Whatever. You know what? I think I rant enough about this movie. It is obviously gonna please the most hardcore fanboys, and I know that there's gonna be people being so forgiving on this one. Does the PG-13 harms this movie? I don't know, because the more I think about it, not even an R-rated can save this movie. And I've seen articles that they tried so hard to make this movie PG-13, but with characters like that, not even an R-rated will save this movie, because because of the mean-spirited people that exist in this world. I mean, I can understand the Karen woman, because she's basically a caricature and they wanted to make her as evil as possible. But I still think that the little girl was the most meanest of all these people. You know what? I talk enough. Five Nights at Freddy's. Personally, I don't recommend it. It was just a chore to watch it. So if you like it, be my guest. I don't know what to say. Huh? What? Oh, I get it. Oh, here we go again. Considering how this movie it was. Alright.